So hello everyone, welcome back to another video. So it's been quite a while since I've covered any Star Wars content on this channel. Since EA pulled the plug on Battlefront 2, I've been moving on and playing other games and stuff. So it's definitely nice to be talking about Star Wars on the channel again. I've kind of missed talking about Star Wars. But before I get into the review, I want you guys to know that my expectations for Star Wars Squadrons was basically non-existent. After the way that EA has handled previous Star Wars games, Battlefront 2015 felt incomplete at launch. It had very minimal content, it didn't have a story mode, it just lacked in a lot of features in general. And then Battlefront 2 had the whole loot box controversy, and their launch was just horrible, and they had to dig themselves out of that hole for 2 years. So I definitely don't have any high expectations when it comes to EA and the way that they handle Star Wars. Now they did do a fairly decent job with Fallen Order. I was impressed with that game. That was actually pretty fun. But since they pulled the plug on Battlefront 2, I've just had this bitter taste in my mouth ever since. I know a lot of the community has also been pretty upset over that as well. They just sort of pulled the plug out of nowhere. And a lot of the blame kind of goes onto this Star Wars Squadrons game. If you were a fan of Battlefront 2, you probably know that they did not support their Starfighter Assault game mode. They didn't do anything to it pretty much at all, other than some fine tuning and some like balancing changes here and there. They didn't add any new maps to that game, and they basically just left that game mode dead in the water for 2 years after the game's launch. So to a lot of players, it feels like they cut support for Battlefront 2 just so they could make Squadrons and make a quick buck. They would basically just revamp the Starfighter Assault mode and charge you an extra $40 for it. And I've seen that argument brought up a lot of different places, and personally that's how I felt about this game going into it. My expectations were low. I didn't think it would be fun. I felt like it was just going to be an upgraded version of Starfighter Assault, and I just wasn't that excited for it. Based off of all the early gameplay I saw for it, it just didn't look that interesting, and I just didn't really have much hopes for this game. But I gotta say, after playing the game, I'm actually having a lot of fun, and I'm enjoying it. I'll be honest, I'm having a lot more fun than I thought that I was going to have. It's definitely on the shorter side of things, which is why it's only $40 instead of $60. If they would have charged $60 for this game, there would have been a huge outcry. There would have been a lot of angry gamers, and this game definitely is not at all worth $60. But do I think it's a cash grab though? Based off of the gameplay, I'm having a lot of fun, and honestly, I think it's probably worth the $40. And if you have EA access, you get it for even cheaper. I think it's like $35, and I'm sure this game will be on sale probably within a couple months, and you can get it for even cheaper. If you can pick this game up for anything less than $40, I'm telling you right now, if you are a Star Wars fan of any kind, or if you've been on the fence for this game, I highly recommend you pick this game up if you've been on the fence or if you've been debating this game for $40 or less. Alright, so let's get into the actual game. First, I want to talk about the campaign mode. Now, the campaign is really short. If you wanted to play through this really fast, I mean, depending on the difficulty, you can beat this anywhere from like 3 hours to maybe 7 hours. There's probably a little bit of a range there, depending on your difficulty and depending on if you're playing in virtual reality or whatnot. Definitely do not get your hopes up for a very long single-player experience. But as for the plot, I actually enjoyed the plot of some of the missions. Like, as for the character development and stuff, I didn't really care that much. I didn't really care to get to know any of the characters, really. I didn't care that much about the overall plot. But as for the individual missions, like, are they fun? Yes, I did enjoy the campaign. It took me maybe 4 to 5 hours to beat it. Compared to Battlefront 2's campaign, I personally enjoyed this game's campaign better than Battlefront 2. When I played Battlefront 2's campaign, it just felt boring. It didn't feel fun. The enemies felt like pushovers. I had absolutely zero desire to go back and ever replay the Battlefront 2 campaign again. I played it once, and that was enough for me. But with Squadrons, I had so much fun doing some of these missions, I would actually consider going back and replaying this story mode again, which completely caught me off guard. I was not expecting anything to come from the story mode at all. I thought for sure that they would just focus on the multiplayer and the story mode would just be sort of tacked on there. But it was enjoyable. Some of the missions were really cool. For example, one of the missions, you have to go and disable a Star Destroyer, and you have to like clear the area for a boarding team to go and capture the Star Destroyer for the rebels. I thought that was a really cool and unique idea. Overall, I had a lot of fun. You switch back and forth. You play as the rebels for a little bit, and then you play as the Empire. And the story mode is basically set up as like a giant tutorial for multiplayer. I highly recommend if you get this game that you play the story mode first, because I did try to jump in the multiplayer and there was just a lot of stuff that I didn't realize that you could do. Now you can play the multiplayer without playing the story mode, but you're going to be at a disadvantage. The campaign actually teaches you a lot of tricks and maneuvers that you aren't going to find just on your own. So if anything, I recommend that you play the story mode, you play the campaign just to figure out how to master your abilities as a pilot. So the campaign, it may be short, but it does get my seal of approval. So getting into the actual combat itself and the multiplayer. Going into this game, I knew it was going to be first person only, and that was going to be a major turnoff for me. And I know it's going to be a major turnoff for a lot of people. But surprisingly, just after maybe a half an hour of playing this game, I completely forgot about wanting there to be third person. The first person mode is actually a lot of fun, and it doesn't really bother me as much as I thought it would. The first person mode is actually really cool, because when you're inside the cockpit and you actually have to pay attention to all the different little meters and gadgets and gauges and stuff that are in your cockpit, and I think that's just super cool. Now, I did not play this in virtual reality, and as much fun as I'm having, I'm thinking about actually buying this on PC as well, just to try out the virtual reality. I can say right now, if you have a VR headset and if you have the like flight stick and stuff, and you can play this game like it's an actual flight simulator, this game would be an absolute blast. You would have so much fun flying around in virtual reality. It would make this game just a completely different experience than somebody that's playing with controller. I mean, they did an absolutely great job of designing the cockpits that are in this game. Now, one of the things that I like the most about this gameplay is that it's really rewarding. This game is really skill-based, and I really like that. Compared to something like Battlefront 2, where it's made for like casual players can just pick it up and they can play and they can do really well. Any casual player could pick Darth Vader, for example, in Battlefront 2, and they would kick some butt. But with Squadrons, there definitely is a skill curve. You can tell that they wanted this to be really competitive. One of the things that I love the most is that you have to constantly be paying attention to what you're doing. You can convert all your power to engines to give yourself a speed boost, and then you can switch and convert all your power back to the blasters so that you do extra damage and your blasters don't overheat as easily. If you're playing as the rebels, then all the ships have shields, so you can revert all your power to the shields so that you take less damage. And then if you're playing as the Empire, TIE fighters don't have shields, so they focus on speed and power. So if you're playing as a TIE fighter, you can put all the power in the ship diverted towards the engines and you can get a mega speed boost, or you can revert all the power in the ship to the blasters and you can just do a crap ton of damage, and you can just absolutely melt through rebel ships. So the Empire does play differently than the Rebels, and I actually like that. It gives you a reason to switch back and forth. And overall, I think all the ships are balanced. You can choose between an X-Wing, a Y-Wing, an A-Wing, and then the Empire has bombers, TIE fighters, TIE interceptors, and all the ships play differently than one another. I personally like the A-Wing and the TIE Interceptor the most because they're the fastest, and every single ship has their own upgrades. You can change the rate of fire of your primary blasters, you can change your different missiles. Maybe you want to go with a radar jammer, maybe you want to go with having extra shields, maybe you want to change your engine speed up. Every single ship has different upgrades. Every person's ship is going to play different than one another's. There's actually a fairly decent amount of upgrades that you can do to your ships, so I was impressed with that. It doesn't take you very long to unlock all the upgrades for the ships and stuff, so the progression is actually pretty easy. And just overall, I mean, the combat is a lot of fun. I don't know what else to say. It definitely impressed me. It caught me off guard. I was expecting this to be a just little bit of an upgrade to Starfighter Assault. If you guys enjoyed Starfighter Assault and Star Wars Battlefront 2 in any way, shape, or form, this is just miles better than Starfighter Assault. And if you guys are a fan of just Starfighter video games, if you guys have played any of the previous Starfighters video games in the past, I highly recommend this. This might be the best Starfighter game that I've ever played. And if you guys are just a fan of flight simulators in general, then I highly recommend this game. Now let's talk about some of the downsides. Now, some of the concerns that I had before I picked up this game was the cosmetics, and that does carry over to the final product. A lot of the cosmetics in this game are completely useless. You never see them. They're pointless. I don't know why they wasted the time and resources to make these customization options. For example, you can change your character's face. There's a couple different heads you can pick. You can change your helmet. You can change your outfit. You can change your like pants and your jacket. Ultimately, none of that matters because the only time you see your character is at the end screen. If you win, you get like victory poses and stuff. You can show off your outfit there. And in the pre-lobby, everybody's sort of standing around the briefing room and you can like spam your emotes and stuff at each other. It's really stupid. It's really underwhelming. The whole emote thing just feels tacked on. In my opinion, it is completely and utterly pointless. Even with the ship customization, you can change the way that the outside of your ship looks. You can change the paint and stuff. Some of the skins look fairly decent. There's like epic skins and legendary skins. You can go with like rusted looks or blue or red or orange, but ultimately it doesn't matter because you don't see the outside of your ship almost ever. The only time that you can see somebody's ship design is if they kill you and you happen to see the kill cam and it's in third person, which is a bit confusing to me because in a first person game the kill cams are actually in third person, and if they're going to make the kill cams in third person, then they should have just made the whole game have the option of being in third person, but that's beside the point. So all the outside customization stuff is pointless. The pilot customization I think is pointless. You're not going to ever see it. But the customization that does matter is inside of the cockpit. When you're inside of the cockpit, there's a number of different things you can do. You can look at holograms. There's like bobbleheads you can get. There's like a Darth Vader statue. You can have like a Stormtrooper helmet or a Rancor or an Ewok or a Porg. Like just a bunch of different decorations that you actually get to see as you're flying around. And as you're flying around and battling and stuff, they'll like wiggle and wobble. And if you have a bobblehead, it'll bounce. And that kind of stuff actually matters. That is the cool sort of customization stuff. Anything that you get to physically see as you play the game, those cosmetics matter. Those cosmetics are cool. I wish that they would add more of those to the game because I actually have fun unlocking those kind of cosmetics. Everything else I could care less about, and I think a lot of other players are going to feel the same way. So the cosmetics in this game are pretty hit and miss. So the final point that I want to bring up is the longevity of this game. So like I said, the campaign is really short. It'll take you just a few hours to beat it. Campaign itself, I'd say, is maybe worth $10, maybe less. And then for the multiplayer, it is fun, it is enjoyable, but there's only 2 modes. There's like a dogfight mode, which is basically just team deathmatch, which I actually enjoyed. I didn't think that dogfight was going to be very interesting, but surprisingly, it's actually my favorite of the 2 modes. And then the second mode is called Fleet Battles. This is the ranked mode of the 2. This is the bigger mode that can last anywhere from 15 minutes to a half an hour. And it's basically just this big tug of war match between the 2 fleets. If you're playing as the Rebels, for example, you go and your objective is to basically just kill enough TIE fighters to weaken their defenses, and then you want to attack the Star Destroyer. But to me, it just didn't feel as fun. It's too much of a tug of war battle. I find it frustrating because you'll attack and you'll attack and you'll attack and you'll make good progress, but then when you get to like the final phase, when you're trying to blow up the enemy's capital ship, it just doesn't feel like you're doing enough damage fast enough, and then that gives the enemy team enough time to bounce back. It feels like a lot of the time the battle just isn't going anywhere and it kind of gets repetitive. So I personally don't like the fleet battles as much as I thought that I was going to, and I kind of like just playing dogfight. But I know some people are really going to enjoy those fleet battles. But there just aren't that very many maps. As of playing this game for 2 days now, I mean, the maps aren't repetitive yet, but I can see that they will get repetitive pretty quickly, especially if you play them over and over and over and over and over. I mean, it's going to get pretty old. And as of right now, they don't have any plans for any DLC. There's no microtransactions and stuff. I think this is just a give us $40 and it's kind of a one and done type deal. I would imagine if this game does well, they might add some DLC in the future. But as of right now, they don't really have any plans for DLC. So based off of how little content there is, it will probably start to get repetitive pretty fast. Like I said, if you guys can pick this up for anything less than $40, I think it's a steal. It is a lot of fun. And if you do have that VR headset, I think this makes the experience that much better. So if I was to rate this game out of 10, I'm probably sitting at a 7 or an 8. I want to say an 8 just based off of how much fun the game actually is. I really had a lot more fun than I was actually expecting. I'm having an absolute blast playing this game. I think it's a good Star Wars experience. Based off of the amount of content, there just isn't going to be that much stuff to do. I think I'll just settle with a 7.5. That way I'm in between both a 7 and an 8. I think it's definitely worth picking up. If you're a big Star Wars fan or if you're on the fence about this game, I think it's worth checking out. and it's got my seal of approval. So that is going to do it for this video, guys. That is my review of Star Wars Squadrons. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section down below. Are you guys going to be checking out this game? Is it for you? I know a lot of people just aren't that excited to play this. Views on YouTube for this game just haven't been as high as something like Battlefront, so I can definitely tell that people aren't as excited. But maybe just a lot of you guys were on the fence and you were waiting to see some more reviews. But here's my review. Let me know what you guys think. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button if you guys enjoyed this video, and hit that subscribe button if you guys are new here. Hit that bell for all notifications, that way you guys don't miss out on any future content. Be sure to join the channel's Discord, and be sure to follow me on Twitch at SwanyPlaysGames Live. And that is going to do it for me, everyone, and I will talk to you all in the next video.